as we are getting ready to commence with the wrestling competition between the host Ohio State Buckeyes and the Beavers of Oregon State, starting at 125. And it is Maximo Renteria for Oregon State, ranked 13th, against Brendan McCrone, ranked 6th. And if Oregon State is going to try to pull an upset today, this is one match they need to take to get off to a good start, because they got one of their top wrestlers here.
Well, certainly that's the case, and a quick takedown right off the get for Renteria. Was able to get behind and then ultimately bring McCrone's hands down to the mat, and that gave him the 3 points. Still takes, even after a couple of seasons, still takes some getting used to. Boy, McCrone is funky.
Renteria is an Illinois transfer, and he can beat ranked wrestlers. His first match as a member of the Beavers, he beat the number 11th ranked wrestler, and he has come out aggressively and confidently here at the start of this opening match.
A little tomahawk chop there to get McCrone back down to the mat, and then actually had his legs kind of bundled up there, but near the out-of-bounds line, and had a joint in an uncomfortable position for the referee, and so clean start for McCrone on bottom, try and get his escape point. Early takedowns, so important now with the 3-point takedown. The old days, 2 points for a takedown, 1 point for an escape. That 50% advantage in scoring could be pretty quickly negated with an escape and then maybe a second period escape. The 3-point takedown changes strategy an awful lot.
And if you're down at the bottom, if you can, sometimes you kick out so that you can get a takedown, and that gives even more value to that now as Renteria once again on the attack.
Well, McCrone here is looking for the reversal. He had a nice little sit-out move. Renteria allowed him to kind of flip a little bit to try and keep him on the ground, but McCrone wound up in a good spot with that inward pressure, and you saw Renteria there just trying to hang on and hang on and hang on. Now, still a minute and a half to go in the first period, but McCrone is so good on the mat. If he can get his neutral wrestling to an elite level, you're talking about absolutely a contender. But what he can do on the mat from a defensive position to turn into points, just as he did right there, and it's 3-2 now because the reversal still is only worth 2 points. It's not a 3-point for a reversal. But when you're dangerous on the mat, as McCrone is, a lot of crazy things can happen. We'll see that later with Ryder Rogotzke as well. He's dangerous on the mat. He's dangerous everywhere. Now McCrone in a dangerous spot. Renteria is going to flip the script.
Showing a lot of quickness there. And reestablishing his 3-point lead. McCrone with a 15-2 record, 44-19 for a career, and he was the top recruit in the nation at one point.
And now again, there's the danger from bottom for McCrone. Gets the reversal. He was looking for back points right there. He wanted to tie something up, possibly a cradle up top. Renteria kind of sensed it. And now Renteria again. Well, we're seeing a lot of kind of loose hips here in the first period, and that's what's enabling both of these guys from bottom to score reversals rather than escapes. So the bottom man doing a really good job creating enough hip separation to give them room to move. And now McCrone on top with a boot in. He is going to try and settle the action a little bit and finish the first period on top. Riding time right now still belongs to Renteria, but if this period finishes this way, it will be essentially nullified. Now we got a far side cradle. Is it locked? McCrone very good from this position. He looks like he's too high. His hips are so high, and there you see Renteria trying to take advantage of that, but McCrone is comfortable there. You would not coach a wrestler to be that far across his opponent's back, but McCrone with his long arms and long legs and very good sense of where his center of gravity is, he can be in a position that most wrestlers would be in danger and still feel okay.
Renteria had a riding time advantage, fairly significant earlier on, but McCrone really came on and reduced that. As you said, it's practically nullified here as we begin the second period with Renteria up 5-4. Of course,
and he chooses bottom because he's confident he can get out, but also he's probably feeling pretty confident he can get multiple points, and he's in a good spot to do it right now. He's got the head. Wow, but he lost the head, and now are we looking at back points or not? McCrone's body was in between Renteria's and the mat, so you're not, even if you're past 45, going to get a count from a referee in that situation. Basically, both arms under both arms, holding a guy in place but not having turned him. Renteria initiated the action there.
Now McCrone with the ride time advantage. Renteria had 9 wins in 2 seasons with the Illinois program. So he is quite familiar with the Big Ten. Maybe didn't expect to be back when he went to Oregon.
McCrone almost in a position where you had to worry about a defensive pin, bailed out. Now back to your feet, a 2-point match. And McCrone's going to have to find a takedown.
And they're up at essentially neutral position, wrestling on their feet here. See if anybody tries to take the initiative here. Teams have, the wrestlers have traded reversals for much of this opening contest.
Now, in a situation like this, if Renteria is able to, as he did very quickly in period number 1, come up with a takedown, that opens it up to a 5-point match, which still is within range with the new scoring system. Back points up to 4 points now.
That and the 3-point takedown definitely changes the calculus in terms of scoring. Renteria with the shot.
Excellent level change there, and then deep on the legs of McCrone. But look at Brennan not panicking at all. Even though he's in a bad spot here, he's going to try and turn that. He wants to lock a cradle from everywhere. He's got his leg kind of stuck in between. Renteria now with both ankles. Normally you say keep your head high, and the guy with his head up is in a better position. Well, McCrone had his head high there, but he was sitting on his backside, so not really much of anywhere he could go. The period just finishes in that awkward scramble situation. And now you know McCrone's going to take bottom because he's scored all of his points from there so far. And I don't know, that little peek right there, Renteria looked to his corner and said, hey, should we go neutral here? And the coach said, no, ride him, keep him down.
Typically you would see that if, especially with the 3 points, if one wrestler is confident that he can get takedowns, he would allow the escape, but he's not doing that.
I don't know how committed to the ride Renteria is really going to be here, especially if things start to get loose like that again. A reversal ties the match. McCrone still for the moment has the riding time advantage, but crowd wanted maybe a locking hands call there. There's the escape, and again, once things got loose, Renteria just did the smart thing. Let's not give up 2 points. Let's give up 1, still have the lead. No stalling warnings for either guy.
This looks like it might come right down to the wire. Strategically, what do you think might be what these wrestlers have in mind at the moment?
Well, for McCrone, he's going to have to figure out a way to get on his attack. He's not done that yet. Now he attempts a shot. Well, now he wants to throw that far leg in and turn this into a takedown.
No
Renteria trying to keep that leg out. Now the leg's in. Referee saying no control. I don't know how there's not control right now.
Then he needs to come up with something in the next 45 seconds, although that's an eternity down there on that mat.
Well, the challenge brick is out. Ohio State thinks it was a takedown. From our angle, I couldn't see what the referee saw down there. He was on the other side of the action. From my angle, it looked like certainly a takedown from McCrone. He's got 30 seconds with which to work here. But now with that left leg dangled over the head, it would be very difficult for him to turn it into a takedown. Ohio State is going to challenge here. You get 1 challenge per duel. If you're right, you keep it. If you're wrong, you lose it.
No takedown. That means 26 seconds till the end, and he's got to come up with something here now in short order. And he went for the shot, but he got warded off. Time really running down now.
1 stall call, but it's going to take 2 to tie the match, and now that Renteria is in on the leg, McCrone is in a really bad spot.
And unless something really surprising happens, Renteria is going to be able to hold on to a 6-5 victory.
Well, and you know, we talked about it at the beginning of the match. Brendan McCrone so good on the mat, but has room for growth from neutral, and that was the difference in this one. The takedown right at the top of the bout for the 3-time California State champ, Maximo Renteria.
Due to time constraints, we now move ahead in the action.
Time state champion himself, was in the 22 World Junior Championship event. Seems to be in relative control here as the final seconds winding down in the period. keeping Elliott out from initiating an attack, and now he goes for the counterattack with the single leg shot.
Now there again, not much time to try and finish this. Oh, they gave him the takedown.
There wasn't much time, but he got it literally as time expired.
Yeah, you're talking about fractions of a second there between whether or not that's 3 points or heading into the third period as it is. Now, Chris Pendleton, talking with the assistant referee about that, did not throw the brick. But there again, that's excellent mat awareness, situational awareness, and matching it with the physical tools necessary for Bouzakis to get 3 points at a really important time of the bout.
Elliott in the down position at the start of the third period, struggling to his feet and gets the escape point. But this just puts Bouzakis in a position to try to get another 3-point takedown possibly.
7-point match, but Bouzakis currently has 1 minute and 34 seconds of ride time, so the 8-point difference makes this a major decision right now. If the match were to finish this same way, Bouzakis would rather finish off the third period with some more points on the board.
Of course, that victory for Oregon State in the opening bout was the narrowest of decisions, and they picked up 3 points for that. And of course, the number of team points you accumulate, always a big factor, and he'd like to go for as many as he can get. Is, of course, assuming he holds on to the victory, which is the first priority, but he seems to be in good control at the moment. Again, Elliott not able to get inside to try to mount any kind of an attack that would cut into this point deficit. As we're into the final minute of the third period. And they go back to the middle after the stalemate is called. And I guess that's fine for Bouzakis, as it's Elliott that's going to have to make something happen here.
Yeah, this is a situation, again, the score right now is an 8-point difference, essentially, with the riding time. And so, situationally, if you're Bouzakis, yes, you'd love to score some more points, but unless you feel like you can get to an extra bonus point, managing the match here, keeping the score where it is, defending is strategically intelligent.
When you try to go for something that's not there, that's when you can get in trouble.
Right.
And he is not going to fall into that trap as the final seconds ticking off. Still no control. And no control is established before the buzzer sounds to end the match. So he got an additional point at the end, so 11-3. Victory for Bouzakis. So they bounce back from the match, the defeat in the initial bout. Two-time All-American. He was also 6th in the NCAAs in the previous year, and his opponent is Crail Stormer, and he was a Montana state champion for this prior to coming to Oregon State. And he has his hands full, to say the least, here in this 141 bout.
Jesse Mendez, the reigning national champion at this weight class, but not ranked number 1 overall. He's undefeated, 15-0 on the season. But Andrew Alvarez of Northern Colorado is ranked number 1. He is the national champion from 2 years ago and took an Olympic red shirt last year.
Opened things up for Mendez, and he picked up that quick takedown and very dynamically to take the 3-0 lead, and then he gives up the escape, but often he might be just the kind of guy that would do that so that he can go and get another takedown, as we've just seen. And with the
so
extra
good.
reward for the takedowns, that even makes that a better strategy.
He's so good from so many positions, and now he's looking for a fall. That inside shoulder is up. You're going to have to find a way to get that down, or or just reset the position. But this 141-pound weight class, between Alvarez, Mendez, and Bo Bartlett, you got 3 guys that are undefeated so far on the season, ranked 1, 2, and 3 in that order. Of course, Bartlett and Mendez had their battles last year, with Jesse winning the last 2 that counted for a Big Ten and a national championship. And he beat Alvarez at the Beat the Streets over the summer as well. So maybe a bit of a surprise. Currently, the Jesse is ranked number 2 and not number 1, but he's not going to worry too much about that. He's just going to go out onto the mat and take care of business. And generally speaking, he's so workmanlike. There's not a lot flashy. It's just forward, relentless pressure from Jesse Mendez.
Outstanding high school wrestler. 157-1 was his record. The 10th wrestler in Indiana history to win 4 state titles. So he came in, obviously, as a very top-level recruit on a national level. And for his opponent, Stormer, it's just a matter of survival, but he gets him down for another takedown after he had previously taken advantage of the additional available back point, and now he leads 13 to 2.
That's not a takedown that's taught in a lot of high school rooms. You have to expose yourself a little bit to do that, to reach that far in, but Jesse does have long limbs, and boy, just felt the position so well to post that far knee and turn things over and tack some back points on there, and that is a quick technical fall for Jesse Mendez. Crail Stormer, not his day.
The only bad news is that it deprives him the opportunity of getting the fall, but said he was such a great high school wrestler, he's obviously learned a few more tricks since then. Out of Newburgh, Oregon, a local product. He was runner-up at 149 at that Reno Tournament of Champions, at which Oregon State placed second. He was runner-up at the Mike Clock Open, so he has had some success in dual competition. But he is in some difficulty early on here.
And you mentioned Jesse Mendez having learned a thing or two since coming to the college level. This guy, Dylan D'Amelio, he's been around here a long time, a 4-time Ohio State champion from Genoa High School. And he has learned the lessons and paid the price of what it takes to be at a high-level college wrestling room. He has stood on the podium at the end of the season as an All-American for the Ohio State Buckeyes, a grad student here, and an excellent example for the young guys in the room. Great leadership.
Another Northwest Ohio product. They have some good wrestling in that area of the state. No score here at the start. We're 1 minute in, but went for the shot. Emilio trying to press the action. Garver trying to hold him off as best he can. Garver also a 4-time state champion and a 128-6 record in Oregon. Driven down to the mat, and the takedown is recorded.
Emilio, I think, only got 1 swipe on the back points. That's why he was holding on down there, not just crawling up the body to complete the takedown. He felt he had an opportunity for back points and came close to it, but Garver able to rotate through there and then get to his base.
So we've got 2 4-time high school state champions on the mat here. D'Amelio is 52-0 his junior year. And that's the thing that is really amazing, is that regardless of how the competition goes, every one of the wrestlers at this level is extremely well decorated as a prep wrestler.
Not all 4-time state champions are created equal when you talk about nationwide, but to do that in any state in the nation is truly something special.
Escape for Garver. Let's see if he can set him up for another takedown, which we saw in the last match, utilized very much to his advantage by Jesse Mendez in his first round tech fall victory over at Crail Stormer. Both wrestlers looking for an opening. Bit tentative here in the opening period. Try to establish some advantage in this match.
D'Amelio, 88 wins in his Ohio State career. If things go well this season for him, he's got a chance to get to the century mark.
30 seconds remain. 30.
88 and 48. And this is a guy that he is the epitome of development. Did not finish as an All-American last year. Had some injury issues. Stall call there against Garver. But this is a guy that, even though he was a 4-time state championship here in Ohio, was at a Division III school, not necessarily the most ballyhooed of prospects coming into the college scene, but just kept getting better and better and better and taking advantage of the coaching in the room, taking advantage of the workout partners in the room, and improved himself to become an All-American. And that's something, we get in all sports now, Greg, you talk about elite. And if you're not elite, then maybe you're not worth talking about. And sometimes what gets lost is you're allowed to get better. And development is so big in the sport of wrestling, and D'Amelio personifies that.
Got his All-American recognition by virtue of being 8th in the NCAA. 10-1 record this year, so he looks like maybe even some bigger things as an early escape in this second period, making it 4-1. Last year he was a very strong 27-13 mark for the Buckeyes. But so far, Garver putting up a good deal of resistance early in this matchup. And he's still just a takedown away from equalizing. And certainly with that change in terms of the score, that can change the overall strategic outlook of the wrestlers.
Well, certainly, and you're talking about a guy, a grad student in Dylan D'Amelio. Aiden Garver's a redshirt sophomore. They both know match situations and things of that nature. Right now, a 3-point match halfway through. If there's an opportunity to score, and there's going to be a score for D'Amelio on a second stall, if there's an opportunity, certainly you take it, but D'Amelio knows as well as anybody how to manage a match.
We saw in that previous match how quickly the points can accumulate and result in an early tech fall even. There's a shot by D'Amelio as he has hold of that right leg and trying to establish some leverage.
Garver around the waist, holding on tight, just trying to get this into a stalemate situation. He's not moving much. D'Amelio continues to try to improve. As long as there's some kind of improvement happening, the referee will allow the action to continue. Reaching back to hook that shoulder. There's an improvement.
And after a lengthy period of no control, finally the takedown occurs.
And that's a good job by the referee of letting that action continue and not being quick on a stalemate trigger.
So that makes it 8-1 and giving D'Amelio more breathing room going into this final period.
Now for Dylan here, he's at 23 minutes of riding. He'd like to extend that, get committed to the ride for another 37 seconds or so. That would put you with a ride time point into major decision territory.
Ohio State lost the opening match at 125. They've come back to win the last two. It's 9-3 in terms of the team score. The early escape there makes it 8-2 now. And we'll see if D'Amelio can turn that around in his favor, letting the opponent on his feet. Meanwhile, Garver looking for an opening as well, as he knows he needs to make some things happen to get back into it.
D'Amelio on a re-attack there, looking to score some points, and does. And for Garver, you're right that he's going to have to now escape and really push the pace. This is a guy that's been down most of the match and has also been hit with the 2 stall warnings for giving ground rather than being on the attack. So he's going to have to change things quickly here.
And you see that in a lot of sports when you have to start going onto the attack to try to cut a margin. That's when you can open yourselves up to a counterattack, especially against a wrestler the caliber of D'Amelio. Another escape, but you just can't keep putting escape points together. You've got to start to get more, and that means making something positive happen.
Now, Garver had some shot attempts. D'Amelio's done a nice job of stuffing those and then counterattacking, turning it into points of his own.
That's what you open yourself up to when you're trying
exactly
to
what happened there. That was not a great shot attempt from Garver. It was more, as you were talking about, recognizing the situation. I've got to try something here, a little bit of desperation. And now D'Amelio is starting to feel the possibility of a tech fall. He's only got 20 seconds with which to work. But if he can get a feet-to-back takedown, there's the takedown. He's going to be 2 points, well, 1 point away from a tech fall now with the ride time margin.
When you're trailing, how much is there ever a mentality that says I want to limit the number of points I lose, or do you default to I got to try to come back if I can?
Well, if your mindset on the mat as a wrestler is to minimize the number of points you give up, D'Amelio on the sprint here to try and get this tech fall, and he's not going to quite get it.
He was right on the precipice.
He was, but to answer your question, Greg, if your goal as a wrestler is to go out there and not give up bonus points, that's going to mean one of two things. You don't have the heart for the sport, or you're recognizing that this guy is just situationally so far ahead of me, I have to protect for the team.
Yeah.
Those are your only two situations for that.
Saw the tail of the tape there for the 157 match. C.J. Hamlin, one of the better wrestlers for Oregon State. Didn't break into their starting lineup until the last week of last year. Then he went on to win 2 matches at the Pac-12 championship. And Patty Gallagher at 157 for Ohio State. And he was considered the very top recruits in the nation coming in, and he's been very successful in his time in scarlet and gray.
Well, for Hamlin, this is just the second dual meet that he has wrestled. He got a match in against Utah Valley. The first 3 dual meets of the season, it was Styles wrestling for Oregon State, but Hamlin gets the call today.
He was successful at the Reno Tournament of Champions, one of the reasons why Oregon State performed so well at that tournament. But he really came on out of Vancouver, Washington. It's not far from the Canadian border.
Now, Patty Gallagher here for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's dealt with injury issues over the years, and you talked about it. He's one of the top recruits in the nation coming out after his senior season at Lakewood St. Edward. Just trying to put it all together for Patty for a season, healthy and putting together the big wins. Comes in ranked 9th in the nation.
In fact, he was named the #1 recruit in the country out of that great Lakewood St. Ed program, where twice he was named the top wrestler in all of Ohio for any weight division. So certainly a coup to get a wrestler from Ohio of his caliber into Ohio State, and of course that's what they're aiming to do more and more, is to get that top Ohio talent. Still no score here, coming down on the 1 minute remaining mark. Hamlin is putting up a good challenge here so far. He won his weight class at that Reno tournament. He was 5th in the Pac-12 tournament. May it rest in peace. That conference, of course, now Oregon State and other West Coast programs are part of the Big Ten.
30 seconds remaining in the period. 30 seconds.
Man,
good quick level
takedown
change
there by Gallagher. Looking very quick there. He was the 2nd-ranked wrestler in Washington State and 2-time state titleist. Gallagher trying to come back, has him by that right ankle and works him to the mat for a 4-point run there to take a lead.
Well, for Gallagher there, giving up that takedown was, like, again, an excellent level change from Hamlin to turn that into a 3-point takedown. That seemed to wake Patty up. Patty got a very quick escape and immediately got on the attack to right the ship.
So he got a 4-point series out of it, the escape followed by the takedown. And now he'll start the second period in the down position, but certainly gives him some momentum going in after Hamlin kind of threw the gauntlet down with that early takedown, just to show that this is going to be a tough one. Gallagher trying to gain an early escape here, and finally gets kicked out, and it's 5-3.
Gallagher with a very serious knee injury that ended his season prematurely last year and caused a slightly delayed start to this season as well. But doesn't use, you see a lot of guys coming back from a knee surgery. They got a big brace on for a little while. He does not have that, just a little sleeve down there on the knee.
Keeping Hamlin out. Hamlin going for another takedown if he can manage to do that. Both wrestlers still on their feet in a neutral position. Looking for an opening.
1 minute remains in the period. 1 minute.
And with two pretty evenly matched wrestlers, it's very key to take what you have and not try to force things, or it can be turned against you very readily.
Now for Oregon State, both Ethan Stiles and C.J. Hamlin at this weight class have been good this year. Stiles is the one that is currently ranked number 31, but if Hamlin is going to take over the weight class, you'll probably see the ranking go his way.
Looks like he has continued to develop since really coming on out of nowhere last year and establishing himself in the postseason conference tournament. Down to the final waning seconds of this second period with no further change in score since that escape made it 5-3 right at the outset of this second period. And that is going to do it. So a lot's going to be riding on this final period, as we saw in that match at 125 to get things started here today that came down to the final seconds. And Gallagher will start on top. So what's the strategical outlook here for these two wrestlers entering the third period?
Well, for both guys, it's score, right? And Patty Gallagher's in a pretty good position to do that right here with a reversal. Or excuse me, rather the Hamlin there was in a decent spot. Gallagher, though, continued to finish on top. So he's still up 5-3, but yeah, you just got to score here. A 2-point lead is not something really to sit upon at this point in a match.
Especially with the 3-point takedown in effect.
Yeah, I mean, in this position, if you give up, if you're the top wrestler, Gallagher, you give up an escape and a takedown, now you're down 2 points. The bottom man, you got to think about that. I am still in this match. Reversal ties it. We've seen some good mat wrestling throughout the course of this duel so far.
You can effectuate an escape, and then all it takes is one move that can put you on top. And obviously it's clear that Gallagher is doing everything he can to prevent that escape from happening.
Well, for Gallagher, 25 more seconds of a ride, and you get over that minute mark. And he looks pretty committed to this ride, trying to keep the weight on the hands of Hamlin. Scoop of that ankle, trying to shoot that leg out. And you get so close to that potential riding time point. So the referee counting with Gallagher down below the waist, but he got back up top in time, and now he does go over a minute for riding time. But the closer you get to that, strategically you think, okay, I got to hang on, got to hang on. Sometimes guys will put themselves in a bad position to gamble on that point. Patty didn't do that there. He kept himself in pretty good position, even with the movement of Hamlin. Because, I mean, Hamlin knows the same thing, right? He knows that minute is approaching, and sometimes you get a little bit desperate, trying to make sure that the riding time doesn't go over a minute.
36 seconds. And trying to orchestrate a reversal here.
Well, Patty's in a good spot. He lost it now, but he had that far leg hooked underneath the body, and that's a position that's really, really tough to get out of, so that allows some more seconds to be burned off the clock.
Yep. If Hamlin's going to make a move, he's got to do it very quickly.
Riding time is locked, so it's a 3-point match here.
And there's the escape, so he's got that many seconds to come up with a takedown here, but Gallagher is not going to afford him that opportunity, and he holds him off for a 6-4 victory over Hamlin, but very, very competitive bout there between those two. vast majority of these wrestlers can boast of that, if not all of them. He won 2 in that Reno tournament, at which Oregon State placed second. Does the fact that this is a higher weight class than Sasso is accustomed to, will that be any kind of an advantage potentially for Menke?
It's an advantage for every opponent of his. You know, the reason we have weight classes is because the bigger and stronger somebody is, the more advantage they have over a smaller, not as strong opponent. And Sammy Sasso weighs in very light. He is not a 165-pound wrestler. He's never been in his career. He's doing that right now because that's where he is. That's where the team has him. That's where he was to begin the season. For him, for what his body will do coming back from everything it's been through, well, you have to figure that out. And oh, by the way, if he wants to go to a lighter weight class, there are several guys in that wrestling room there over at the Jennings Wrestling Facility that say, well, that's my spot. That's the spot that I want. They're not just going to give it up to him.
Sasso has been remarkably successful, 19-2, and remarkably consistent through his career. 24-1 last year, 16-1, 25-4, 29-4. Just tremendous throughout his entire career. In his first full year with the Buckeyes, he was second in the NCAA, a 4-time All-American, the 9th wrestler in program history to accomplish that. So far, still no score, and feeling out process continuing here.
Well, stylistically for Sasso, he's never been a guy, even at lower weight classes, with a lot of horsepower. He's an excellent counter wrestler, so tough to score on, scores off opponent shots a lot, and that becomes a lot more difficult when you're dealing with an opponent who is bigger and stronger than you are. So you've not seen quite as many wide open wins for Sasso this year as you've seen in the past, and that stands to reason.
Menke was a state champ in Colorado at the 160 weight class. He placed all 4 years, 3rd, 4th, and 6th in the other years in Colorado. Trying to get in for the shot. Didn't really get a clear shot at Sasso, but he's holding on to that right ankle.
Well, again, this is where Sammy is so good. Oftentimes it seemed like he'd give his legs away to get into these types of situations to score on his defense. And now he's got the arm pinned to the side. He's trying to scoot out from underneath and turn it into a takedown with possible near fall.
Got a little high there for a moment it looked, but.
Well, and again, that's where the size and horsepower makes a lot of difference. If you're wrestling somebody your own size, Sasso may well have turned that into potentially a 7-point move.
Potentially dangerous call.
And Menke, for his part, he understands that. He knows he's the bigger man in terms of size in this match, and he's using that to his advantage.
Well, you can just look at the two, and you can see that there is a bit of that advantage that exists. Perhaps not a prohibitive one, but enough to perhaps make some kind of difference as the final seconds running out here in this opening period. And it will end the same way it started, with no score on either side. And what can we gather from what we saw there in that opening period?
Well, that Menke is not going to give any ground in this match. You just saw it right there at the end of the first period where he went a little bit past the whistle to send the message to Sasso, I'm here, I'm in front of you, I am not giving any ground. You're going to have to beat me. You're not winning this match just by stepping on the mat.
Similar to what C.J. Hamlin, the message that he sent to Patty Gallagher. And that went right down to the final seconds before Gallagher prevailed by a single point. Sasso trying to effect the escape here. But Menke not giving it up willingly, very grudgingly, in fact, and he still got him down. And he's holding on for dear life, not allowing Sasso out.
Well, and this is another spot where you're at a distinct disadvantage being the undersized wrestler. Having to carry a guy larger than you as a backpack, that's going to burn up a lot of your energy. And no matter how hard you train, no matter what your resting heart rate is, there's only so much you bring into a match.
Well, he finally got that point. It took almost just over 45 seconds of trying, and he has a 1-0 advantage now. And let's see what happens now that both wrestlers are on their feet.
1 minute remaining second period.
Into the final minute of the second period.
And on our final NFL Sunday of the regular season, if you're a team that's got a big offensive line and a running back, keep pounding the ball, pounding the ball, pounding the ball, soften that defense up, and then later on in the game you can take your shots downfield. Now it's akin to being the bigger wrestler in a match.
Yeah, you might have some success earlier, but as the match goes on, the size tends to become more and more of a factor. And we're into the final half minute of the second period. And the wrestlers still playing somewhat of a waiting game here. And then we may well go into the third period with as close a score as you can have.
Now, Menke's had the only really committed shot so far. Sasso tried to turn it into points off of that.
Or at least as small a deficit as you can have. And that's going to do it for the second period. Now, Sasso got that escape that he really had to work to accomplish. Is the difference in the match right now. But now here is maybe Menke might feel that he has that advantage that we've been talking about with the additional weight, that he might be able to push the envelope a little more.
Yeah, this decision to go neutral I think is a smart one for Menke. Sasso very, very good on top. There's no ride time advantage here, so take the feet, try and wear your man out, find an opening to look for a takedown, because even if you escape, you're going to have to get a takedown to win it anyway.
This is the sixth match we've seen. If Menke would be able to pull it out, it would be the third victory for Oregon State, but Ohio State with the points edge because of the margin they've accumulated. He's got Sasso by the left leg here.
Now Menke shot to the right leg and wound up on the left leg. Sasso tight around that waist. This is a position Sasso's comfortable in, but Menke is probably feeling some points right now. He just has to keep the action going, wants to overhook that ankle there.
See the no control sign hovering over the wrestlers, but he, as you said, he may just smell an opportunity.
And now Sasso passing the hips, getting to the ankle, looking for his own points. This is vintage Sasso, but now we're going to get a potentially dangerous call from the referee stopping the action.
Is it to the advantage of either of the wrestlers that sequence was ended?
Well, I think Sasso was closer to a takedown in that position than Menke was, but that had shifted from a few seconds ago, so who knows?
Final minute. Final period. Again, 1 point deficit. This is the third time we've seen this. We saw it at 125, again at 157. The team split those two.
Sammy Sasso, 99 career wins coming into tonight.
Now he goes for the double shot. Sasso holds him out. He knows he needs that takedown to try to pull this match out in the waning seconds.
Well, now Sasso's got that knee toward the head. He loves a cradle in this situation, but he doesn't need it. He just has to fight off the potential takedown. He's down on one ankle, and he can burn a lot of clock right here with 12 to go.
Holding on with that ankle lock, preventing any control from being established by Menke. And he manages to hold off the challenge, and we've seen a number of these types of matches that literally have come down to the final seconds with the outcome still in doubt. But Sammy Sasso pulls it out, and that's his 100th career win, and he did it by a 1-0 score.
Find a way. 100 career wins for Sammy Sasso. He did not have an offensive attempt the entire 7 minutes, but managed the match like the veteran that he is, and he has reached the century mark for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
And what a round of applause he is getting from this capacity crowd here at the Covelli Center, where they love their wrestling.
Yeah, certainly for Kharchla. We talked earlier about Patty Gallagher coming back from knee surgery. He did not have the brace on. Kharchla does. This is a wrestler that really, even going back to his prep career, has had injuries really throughout his collegiate career. He's dealt with injury after injury after injury. doesn't have the number of matches that a lot of other guys who are essentially here's a graduate student do. But, man, when he's been on the mat, he has been very, very effective. And when healthy, he is one of the top competitors in the nation.
Got that early takedown. He's a local product from Powell, Ohio, nearby to Columbus. I'm sure he's got a lot of family and friends in the stands here watching. And they see him take the early advantage. And they remain in bounds for the moment, but now out, and they'll go back to the center of the mat. But he certainly came out as the aggressor here. And a skate point was awarded for Harmon to make it 3-1. Harmon, his grandfather, father, and brother all wrestled at the Naval Academy, so he certainly comes in good background for wrestling.
Yeah, obviously a family affair. I'm sure Thanksgiving has had some overturned tables.
Some real battles in the basement, perhaps. As so much of wrestling is a family affair.
Excellent change of directions there on the shot from Kharchla. And quickly on his second takedown of the bout.
Went down to the mat and then effected the takedown from there to take a 6-1 advantage. Got that wrist lock, and he is able to break free for another escape.
Kharchla's father is a wrestling trainer in Central Ohio, well known, well regarded as well, so a family affair for both of these competitors.
So trading takedowns for escapes is even less of a good deal for the escapee than it had been in the past, where normally it would be 4-2. Now it's 6-2. And that's not a pattern that you can continue to do, exchanging 1 point for 3.
Now, folk style, with that rule change, it sort of puts the emphasis closer to freestyle wrestling. We were talking about that earlier. Another excellent shot there from a little bit of distance from Kharchla, but he covered that distance very, very quickly, trying to turn it into his third takedown. Looks like he's going to get it. Indeed he will. But rewarding the efforts and chances taken from neutral, that's something you see a lot in the freestyle realm. Folk style, more geared toward mat wrestling, but making the takedown worth 3 points certainly encourages action from the feet.
Might that be designed to bring it a little bit more in line into freestyle, so perhaps it's less of a transition you have to make once you get into that international competition?
I don't know that that was the impetus for it. I think they wanted to see more action. Yeah,
the more action, the better, typically. 9-2.
Now, when you get to this level of wrestling, the Division I, particularly in the Big Ten, the margins are so slim that matches, you'd see all the time, 3-2, 2-1.
Yeah,
those were the finals.
1-0 here.
Right. And the sport of wrestling, like any other, wants to, show that it can draw a crowd, be entertaining, and sometimes to do that, all sports have to evaluate their rules and see what's in the best interest of growing the sport.
Well, they certainly draw here. They've filled the Schottenstein Center. They filled St. John Arena with the wrestling matches at Ohio State. They routinely fill the Covelli Center. 9-2 the score as we head into the third period now. Kharchla seemed to have had good control, and he doesn't seem to be at all gun shy at all due to the injury.
No, he's been on the attack, and that's probably the last thing to come when you suffer a major injury and you miss a lot of time. It's not necessarily the physical things that are the last thing to come. It's the trust in your body.
He looked pretty good, pretty acrobatic there, getting that escape. It's like he has full confidence in his mobility.
Yeah, trusting yourself in a situation where you're no longer thinking about the injury, no longer thinking about, can my body do this? That's what enables you to get back to the competitor that you actually are.
10-2 lead. So occasionally, and more than in isolated cases, it's been down to the wire with the narrowest of advantages. But this is another one of the occasions we've seen where now it's going to maybe have to open up to try to cut into that deficit, and that could allow some counterattack opportunities for Kharchla in this case. This isn't one of those cases where there's dominance on the mat, so he's not thinking of let's limit the damage. He wants to try to get back into the match as he goes with that shot. Harmon does. He's got Kharchla over his shoulders, and a stalemate is called. You have to, in this situation where you have this substantial lead, you just need to avoid being put in a position where you can end up getting pinned all at once and see everything come unraveled, which does happen on occasion. So it gravitates against taking any unnecessary chances to increase the score, while you still would like to do that if you can.
Well, Halstead, he did what he needed to do really in the first period, and continued to add on another takedown there to make it his 10-2 advantage. He's put in the work, and again, would you rather just finish off the match with a tech fall or a pin and get back into the locker room? Yeah, but you also, as you're alluding to, have to understand the situation of the match. And
well, he comes up with a major decision with a 10-2 victory, which will.
That's the end of the second period there.
Oh, pardon me. Still got a period to go. But he is in range of that if he can at least not see his position deteriorate at all in the final period. And he'll start in the up position.
And with all the success with the takedown so far, the riding time just now went over a minute for Kharchla.
And that could come in handy too. That additional point that might be required to get him a little bit better victory in terms of the team score. Working his way up to his feet, Harmon trying to break away, and there he gets his third escape. But as you said, the math doesn't work if that's going to be your primary means of attaining points.
Now for Harmon, obviously it's full-on attack time, and Kharchla takes advantage of that with a somewhat loose shot there. Kharchla hasn't scored a takedown of his own yet, but that over whizzer is going to be challenging for him to free that arm and turn it into a takedown. But again, takedown or no for Kharchla, now he's into a different situation. Every second that comes off that clock is a win for him, and now he does get the 3 points. It's a double victory.
Yeah, he's definitely looked very impressive. Somebody that is coming off such a serious injury that cost him an entire season of competition. He's not only winning, but he has looked impressive in doing it. At times, he's looked very quick, very agile and mobile out there when he's had to be. And he is in a comfortable position now with just 15 seconds remaining. You see Harmon still going after him, though, which you alluded to, the competitiveness of the wrestler. Keep on doing the best you can till the very end. Harmon, his first year in the program, was 18-1 in unattached competition, which is quite an impressive record. But that is the end. And a 13-4 victory for Kharchla of Ohio State. And they continue to pad their advantage.
A tech on the riding time point there, make it 14-4, a major decision victory. 20-point advantage now for the Buckeyes.
Due to time constraints, we now move ahead in the action.
Position has to stay tight and controlled, and he's done a nice job of that with his shots low and staying low on the body, not allowing Rogotzke an opportunity for a big counter.
Last minute of the period. Threw him down, then goes after him, and a takedown here is once again TJ McDonnell showing that he is willing to press the action.
There's the whip.
Escape, but whipped right back at him, and then got him down on the ground, and now accumulating near fall points too. Rogotzke looking for another fall. That'd be 17 in his career, just managing to roll out of it. And it appeared that McDonnell had things going pretty well, but Rogotzke turned it around in a blink of an eye.
As advertised.
Absolutely. That was great illustration of what was being talked about. Now he's got him again in a dangerous position. The crowd is anticipating it. Official down, taking a close look at the positioning of the shoulders, and there it is.
Time is out. Period is over. Time is out.
So the time just expired as he was on the verge.
And Rogotzke was awarded a penalty point as well, it looked like.
He was on the very verge of executing the pin, but saved by the bell and then getting the point, penalty point, to make it tighter here going into the next period.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the penalty was on there. The referee's hand signal was a bit confusing.
Everyone in the building was anticipating the pin, which almost eventuated. And they start the second period, but there's probably more action in that period of wrestling than we've seen in any of the bouts so far. And he rolls out for the escape to make it 9-6. But it looked like McDonnell was more or less dictating things, and then all of a sudden Rogotzke just turned it around.
Well, and the way he wrestles is counter to the way almost everybody is coached. You hear in coaches' chairs all across the nation at a lot of different levels, don't reach back, don't reach back. Here's a cradle. This could be dangerous.
And he has once again got him down. Back points accumulating. Can he get him down for the pin? He's not going to be saved by the bell this time.
Well, that one shoulder, that should do it.
That's it. That was worth waiting for. The crowd explodes. And the fall artist does it again. And the crowd just loves it.
Ryder Rogotzke is the kind of wrestler that is going to electrify a building because he is always looking for these types of situations. And again, you hear coaches say all the time, don't reach back, don't reach back, don't reach back. Well, he turned that into a 7-point move by reaching back with that shoulder whip the first time. That wasn't how he got the initial takedown. It turned into something else. But in a situation like that from neutral, he can also wrestle from there, found that cradle, and there are just certain guys who smell pin opportunities.
Due to time constraints, we now move ahead in the action.
Gave it up relatively quickly, but that's one of the kind of things that can take the starch out of the socks of an opponent, just to have that kind of pressure, that much torque on a joint for any length of time. Take away some of the fight from the guy that's on the other side of the line.
Escape point makes it 7-1. Trying to get right back in there, and that oftentimes a good time to go on the attack after you've just been kicked out, but instead, another 3-point takedown for Shumate.
Now, Halstead definitely on his heels here, the redshirt freshman. And for Shumate, you can tell when a guy is just kind of feeling it. He's got a good rhythm going. He knows where he's at in space. He's got his opponent kind of measured. Shumate is that right now.
Very sharp on all of his 3 takedowns. And you saw that Halstead was trying to change the momentum of the match. He got that escape and then went right back in. But he was fended off, and then within a matter of seconds, Shumate had another takedown. and he just kicks out for the escape point, and that shows that Shumate is confident in his ability to register further takedowns.
And sometimes during a match, you just, whether it's in pre-match film, boy, that's an excellent change of direction. And Shumate right now is feeling that he can break his man, but sometimes you see it on film, sometimes you find it in a match that there's just a certain crack in the armor that you have the ability that's right in your wheelhouse to exploit. And Shumate has had the ability to do it. There's a big one.
And now
that's a fall.
Go further. He comes up with a pin. Wow. Talk about power and execution.
The crack became a chasm.
That's right. Just as you were mentioning that, he saw an even bigger opening. Brilliant performance by Seth Shumate. One of the best of the afternoon on the heels of Ryder Rogotzke's tremendous performance. Look at this. He wasn't content for his 4th takedown. For his 5th takedown, he turned it into a pin.
Due to time constraints, we now move ahead in the action.
Anymore. But certainly it's more dynamic than a lot of times you see at the heavyweight division. Maurer, a 4-time letterman in football, wrestling, and track.
Yeah, I think really in terms of athletic heavyweights, we are.
Again.
Boy, there's another good level shot and finish, but we're kind of in a golden age of athletic heavyweights. Even a guy like Gable Steveson, obviously, who is huge, is also very athletic. The other heavyweights that we've seen a lot, and you don't see as often anymore the heavyweights is just the big guy that wants to win a 2-to-1 match. There's a lot more athleticism and scoring at the heavyweight level than has historically been the case.
And as you were saying before, you're always trying to make the sport more entertaining, and that's a big advantage. A lot of times at the prep level, you'll see that they'll change the order in which the weight classes go out because they don't want people walking out on the heavyweights. And this has been very, very entertaining, and Feldman has really been following along in the same tradition of the last couple of matches with Shumate and Rogotzke in terms of his dynamism out there.
Now, Maurer's going to have to find a way to get to his attacks here. His stance is more upright than Feldman, which is one of the reasons why Nick has been able to get to the low-level shots. There's a change of level and shot from Maurer, but not able to finish it off. Feldman with a great counter.
Great lateral movement there on display by Feldman, and he turns that into another takedown. He's been just outstanding here in the early going of this. Building up a 9-2 lead, and now once again drives his opponent to the mat as the first period expires.
Well, all Feldman so far. Again, for Maurer, I like the fact that he showed confidence in the attack. He's going to have to close the distance a little bit more to make that more effective. And that's not easy to do against Feldman because, again, he's not tall for a heavyweight and has so much power in his hips and legs, but also in the upper body, the arms and shoulders, that to get past that head and hands defense against Feldman is not an easy thing to do. You almost have to be really, really heavy-handed and have an excellent snap to try and get Feldman's hands on the mat to change kind of direction and go around him rather than through him. Oh.
And once more, that's a load to be falling on you. It's been happening a lot.
Well, it was an excellent setup for Feldman to turn that into a takedown.
Once again, you'll give up the escape to come up with a takedown. There he goes again. Wow. This is definitely not your prototypical historic heavyweight match.
No, but it is pretty typical of Feldman. This is his ballywick.
Yeah, absolutely. He's showing tremendous amount of athleticism to go with his size. The crowd's really into it. into the rhythmic clapping and cheering. Of course, they're always into it here, but they're really appreciating this effort that Feldman is turning in.
Well, we've seen a lot of fireworks in the back half of this duel,
sure
Greg. And you're right, the crowd has appreciated it very, very much.
Great deal of action in the second half after there were a couple of matches that really went down to the final seconds earlier. And then, of course, the victory by Sammy Sasso was at 1-0. And now the last three matches, a lot of fireworks. And here we go again.
Feldman needs one more takedown for the tech fall here.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against him based on what we're watching. We're still 45 seconds remaining in the second period. There he goes again. And he was going for the fall there. Didn't quite get that, but he took care of this in quick succession. A 23-6 victory in the last three matches. Just superlative efforts by Ryder Rogotzke, Seth Shumate, and now Nick Feldman. And the crowd got their money's worth in those last three matches for the entire afternoon here.
Well, they certainly did, and you often think of the high-scoring, high-flying bouts being in the lower weights, and Ohio State had a couple of those. Obviously, Jesse Mendez with a tech fall, and Nick Bouzakis opened things up in his match as well, and Dylan D'Amelio with a very controlled victory. But those last three bouts, the action was flying fast and furious and early. Ryder Rogotzke with the fall, and then Seth Shumate followed up with a pin of his own, and just complete domination for Nick Feldman from the beginning of that match till its tech fall ending, just showing the quick feet, the power to get through an opponent, and the willingness to just keep attacking and attacking and attacking until the job is done.
Yeah, that looks like maybe a typical Ohio State football game, 40-3. They end up winning it.